What's up guys, and welcome back to round number 2 of my 2019 F1 modded career mode series. Back today for the Bahrain Grand Prix, and you guys seem to absolutely love the first episode. I was blown away by the response. I can't thank you enough. It's now one of my most viewed career mode videos of all time on the channel, and it came out a matter of days ago. So if we can hit 3 figures, 100 likes on this video, then I will bring out another episode on Thursday or Friday of this week, keeping up with the 2 a week that I promised. And yeah, you guys were leaving all sorts of good feedback in the comments, and I've taken some of it on board today. As you can see on screen now, we've changed some of the driver numbers. So the FIA announced the new drivers for 2019, what numbers they'll be running. Robert Kubica will have the number 88, Lando Norris will have the number 4 on his car. George Russell will be running with 63 and Giovinazzi with 99, but we actually got those 2 right before. So yeah, we've changed those 2. I've also got a couple of other things in mind, like changing the sponsors on some of the cars to match the drivers. But any more feedback that you want to give me and any changes to make to the liveries and such, do make sure to leave that down in the comments section below. So getting into today's Bahrain Grand Prix, starting off with the grid. Once again, it's a front row of Lewis Hamilton and Sebastian Vettel. Almost like a carbon copy of the 2018 season. But we've got Valtteri Bottas in behind those 2, with Pierre Gasly lining up in 4th at the race where he took 4th place last season. Now Daniel Ricciardo in 5th place, 3 positions ahead of ourselves. And the Renault car is looking as if it's performing well this weekend, with the Racing Point and Haas cars making it into the top 10. Charles Leclerc has got an engine penalty, which leaves him down in P13. I'm sure he'll charge through the field before too long, but yeah, he'll definitely be one to watch out for during the race. With Albon, Kubica, Norris and Russell rounding out the grid, it's looking like it's going to be a pretty good Bahrain Grand Prix. Now, with regards to strategy, it's looking like a 2-stopper, which should make this race quite interesting. You know, it allows a little bit of variation in strategy, unlike the real-life season in 2018, so it's good to see a bit of variation in this mod. And yeah, hopefully we go for the 2-stopper. The 3-stopper would take some horrific tyre wear management, but in practice, we were really struggling to keep those tyres alive, so yeah, I wouldn't rule out the possibility of a 3-stopper. But now we're going to go out onto the track for the formation lap. And in the bottom corner, you can see what the drivers' standings are looking like after that first race in Melbourne. And it was Valtteri Bottas who took victory there ahead of Lewis Hamilton. So looking pretty imperious were the Mercedes guys. We managed to take P7, finishing comfortably ahead of our teammate Daniel Ricciardo, who couldn't even manage any points. But we are starting significantly behind him today, and it's going to take a big effort to get in front of him. But now we go to the 5 red lights here at the Bahrain International Circuit, and away we go. It's a reasonable start for ourselves, holding pace with Romain Grosjean, but it looks as if Lance Stroll in that Racing Point car has got a very good start. We're going to charge down the inside, trying to be as controlled as possible. It looks as if we've just snuck ahead of Romain Grosjean, who is very conservative into turn 1, and our teammate Ricciardo battling with the 2 Red Bulls up in front, and he is sandwiched between 2 of his old cars, and it looks as if Ricciardo is going to get in between the 2 of them, with Gasly going from 4th down to 6th, with Verstappen up to 4th, and the safety car has been deployed after just 1 sector. So wow, an absolutely frantic first few corners, and let's take a look at exactly why the safety car came out. So it's Alexander Albon who is retired from the race, which is why it's come out, and now you can see he just goes into the side of Kimi Raikkonen. I'm not sure whether he just failed to see his braking point. The youngster in just his 2nd race in this series, and you can see he just goes charging into the old boy Kimi Raikkonen, who must be fuming. He DNF'd at the real-life 2018 Grand Prix, and it's a DNF for him here in the fictional 2019 season. But behind the safety car, the top 3 are unchanged, so we've got still Hamilton from Vettel with Bottas there in P3, but 4th and 6th have switched around. It's still Ricciardo in the middle of the Red Bulls, but the order of those Red Bulls has changed. It's Verstappen ahead of Gasly, and then we are just slotted in behind. So looking as if it could be a bit of a battle between the 2 Red Bulls and myself and Ricciardo in those Renault cars. So far, we're looking pretty decent. I mean, as I said, practice-wise, we were struggling to keep the tyres alive in terms of life. So I guess time will tell. But on raw pace, our car is looking really, really good. So hopefully we can get a good restart. Now, the safety car is coming in at the end of lap 3. Of course, Lewis Hamilton has the right to control the pace of the rest of the grid. And it looks as if he's going to fire out of this final corner. We're preparing to resume racing. And away we go. It looks as if our tyres are very, very cold on the restart. We couldn't work any temperature into them because Hamilton going so slowly on the restart. And now we're vulnerable to be overtaken by one of the Haas cars. It looks like Romain Grosjean is going down the inside in that golden black Haas car, obviously sponsored by Rich Energy, and it looks as if we just about held position though in our Renault car. But Grosjean with that Ferrari powered car against our Renault power looks as if he's going to go down the inside, and Kevin Magnussen also fancies to go. We're almost 3 abreast through there. We go very, very wide. There's a couple of cars behind looking up to pick the pieces as well, and we just about hold it through sector 1, and that's what makes this first sector in Bahrain so special. You can pretty much run side by side for the entirety of it. But now everybody settles into formation before we go into this double left-hander. But the Haas cars aren't settling into any sort of positions because it looks as if Romain Grosjean is very much under pressure from his teammate Kevin Magnussen. So Grosjean failed to get the overtake done on us, and now he's under pressure from his teammates, and it looks as if Magnussen's going to go all the way round the outside into the end of what will be the second DRS zone. Magnussen's now going to sweep down the inside and into P8 or P7 in this Grand Prix. I'm sorry, no, it is P8. We're in P7. How could I forget? We're behind our teammate. Regardless of that, he's the lead Haas driver, and he is now going for a move on ourselves. Is Kevin Magnussen into turn 1 at the start of lap 5, and he gets the move done. Those Haas cars very quick in a straight line, and we're really struggling to keep our tyres alive, just like in the practice sessions. So I think we're just going to have to try and maybe even try and sit behind Kevin Magnussen, because Grosjean also looking for a move into turn 4. But of course we've got this sort of snaking few corners now where we're going to have to hold formation. There's going to be no overtakes through here, and there you can see Lance Stroll is behind the second Haas car of Grosjean, again just waiting to prowl. The Racing Point car of Lance Stroll has looked very strong so far, not necessarily in terms of overtakes, but in terms of pace, very much kept up with the Renaults and the Haas cars. And as we still ride on board with Romain Grosjean, you can see he's closing up to ourselves on the straight, but fortunately it runs out in time. But as we come towards the end of lap 5, as Lewis Hamilton unsurprisingly sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, we are opting to come in a couple of laps early because these tyres are absolutely dead. And, well, yeah, coming in on lap 5, that leaves us with 24 laps left in the Grand Prix. Divide that by 2, you get 12. It's 12 laps apiece on both sets of soft tyres. And I believe we should be able to do that to the end. I mean, the tyres aren't going to be in the freshest condition, but those super softs were absolutely shot. And as you could see, we weren't keeping pace whatsoever with our teammate Daniel Ricciardo. So with the first ones into the pit lane, of course, Alexander Albon, who appears behind us on the graphic, is out of this race and was out after just a couple of corners, as you saw earlier on in the race. But at the start of lap 6, we're just going to try and bolt it for a couple of laps and see what we can do. But skipping forward onto lap 7, just before the rest of the cars, I'd imagine will come into the pit lane. We've still got Daniel Ricciardo holding position in P6 ahead of Kevin Magnussen. But as we look behind there, Lance Stroll, who I said looked as if he had a decent amount of pace in that first stint, has got ahead of Romain Grosjean. So Grosjean was putting ourselves under pressure, and he's now been overtaken by his teammate and Lance Stroll. And then just behind them, we have got a Toro Rosso, so that'll be Daniel Kvyat. And behind him and Sergio Perez is Charles Leclerc, so he must still have problems in that car. Of course, he took an engine penalty on Saturday. Not quite sure what engine component it was, but it doesn't look as if they fully fixed the problem down at Ferrari. Anyway, we've got some cars emerging from the pit lane now, and Lance Stroll has, well, he's leapfrogged ourselves and Romain Grosjean in just the matter of a couple of laps. Now, we're still ahead of Grosjean, but that Racing Point car is just doing one at the moment. It's really coming into its own. Now, traditionally, the Force India team were very, very kind on their tyres, so very much coming to fruition once again, despite being rebranded as Racing Point. And we are not looking forward on the track to try and overtake that Racing Point car. No, we are looking behind because Roman Grosjean once again tried to move at the start of lap 9 on ourselves. And it's just not going well. We are going backwards in this Grand Prix. We're P14 at the moment. Of course, there's still a few cars that have got to pit, so that isn't our actual position. But on current form, we'll be lucky to stay within the top 10 and score any sort of points this afternoon. We're going to have to stay ahead of Grosjean if that is going to be the case. But further up, you can see one of the cars, Carlos Sainz, that is yet to come into the pit lane, being overtaken by the leader, which is, of course, Lewis Hamilton. And it looks as if he is slowing. And that is Carlos Sainz taking the luck of Fernando Alonso into the 2019 season. Of course, this is, Fernando Alonso's car, modded for Carlos Sainz. And the luck has stuck around for another season. Carlos Sainz, terrible luck there for McLaren, who are looking alright, to be fair, for an outside chance at getting some points. But he won't be scoring any this afternoon. He's parked up on the side of the road, and we have got our second safety car of the afternoon. Now, that has really played into the hands of a few drivers that have pitted, one of which being Sergio Perez, who really held out until the end of lap 9 to pit. So now he's ahead of ourselves, and both Racing Point cars are ahead of ourselves, which leaves us at the tail end of the top 10. So going through the order, after 11 or 12 laps of this Grand Prix, it's still a Mercedes 1-2, with Valtteri Bottas getting ahead of Sebastian Vettel. So that has changed during the first stint. But yeah, just like the first race of the season, it's a Mercedes 1-2. Then in fourth place, we've got Max Verstappen. He has stayed there after leapfrogging his teammate on lap 1. And behind him is Pierre Gasly in P5. Then in P6, we've got our teammate who is putting in a stellar performance this afternoon, Daniel Ricciardo. And yeah, falling back a little bit, having been overtaken by Pierre Gasly. And then we've got Magnussen, Stroll and Perez behind him. You can see on board with Stroll and now on board with Perez. So, yeah, looking like a double points finish for Racing Point, and then you've got ourselves in P10. Now, interestingly enough, Perez is on the super soft tyres, so, yeah, just showing exactly how good the Racing Point car is on its tyres. So I assume he's still on for the two-stopper, but we are now away once again, starting racing at the end of lap 11, and we get a little bit of a better restart compared to the last safety car. Although still not good enough to challenge Sergio Perez, but we brake very, very late. Perez held up by his teammate. The concertina effect has very much played into our own hands there. And as we go through turns 2 and 3, we are ahead of Sergio Perez and up into P9, with Perez getting a very poor exit off that corner. He's going to be challenged by the cars behind, one of which being Roman Grosjean. Grosjean trying to go all the way round the outside at the end of the first sector. And is he going to be able to get the move done? No, he isn't. But Perez very much struggling to get those super soft tyres up to temperature. Especially off that exit of turn, the exit of turn 1 and the first complex of corners. Couldn't even get my words out there. It's been such a frantic, not even first half to the race yet. But still, we are sat in a points-paying position, P9 currently. But it's looking very, very difficult to try and keep hold of it because Sergio Perez has gone down our inside. His tyres are very much up to temperature now, and we are down a position. It's not looking good. It is really not looking good because just look at the gap between Perez and Stroll. That is how far behind Stroll we were. We just could not keep pace whatsoever. And surely it's not going to be long until Roman Grosjean fancies yet another look at us. He's not had much luck in the opening 11 and a half, 12 laps of the race. But that's not going to stop him from having another go, surely. There's no DRS active currently, due to the safety car peeling in just one lap ago. But as I mentioned, Grosjean not scared to try and move down the inside of ourselves. He's on the same tyre compound, so pretty much like for like comparison. And that was a very, very easy move. There wasn't really much we could do about it. He sort of went down our inside. We couldn't outbrake him, and he got the move done very, very smoothly. Very, very un-Roman Grosjean-like, I have to say. Usually makes a bit of a song and a dance about overtakes, but fair play to him. Very good move indeed. And we're looking back once again. We're in P11, and in P12 we've got Daniel Kvyat on his return to the sport. And it looks as if he's going to now try and move on ourselves on the run up to turn 4. So as we go up the hill, it's a good opportunity to overtake, as we've seen over the years, especially in this turbo hybrid era, but just not quite having the oomph in that Honda engine to get the move done. Skipping forward just a few corners from when we last saw Daniel Kvyat, we are still just about keeping on the tail of Romain Grosjean. Now the gap between him and Sergio Perez in P9 is quite big, as we get a massive tank slapper, but we are hanging on to that DRS range. Lap 14 sees the DRS reactivated after that second safety car stint, and we are now at exactly half race distance. It's been an absolutely frantic first half to this race, but it has not stopped here, I can assure you that. We've still got at least one round of pit stops to go, and hopefully for ourselves a little bit of overtaking. We've had our struggles so far with tyre wear, and we're now getting into the window where these soft tyres are going to start to be going off. Only time will tell whether we'll be able to keep pace with the cars ahead, but we are fortunately still within DRS range of Romain Grosjean. The question is, are we close enough to try and make a move into turn 1? We're gaining and gaining as we get towards the braking zone. It's a massive lunge down the inside. Grosjean not expecting that, but to be fair to him, he gave us the room, and he's compromised his line so much that he's ended up being overtaken by Daniel Kvyat. So 2 positions lost for Romain Grosjean, 1 position made up by ourselves. We're in P10, and looking forward, the next car ahead is our teammate Daniel Ricciardo. Of course, it isn't on screen now because Sebastian Vettel has come in for his second stop of the afternoon. But on track, technically, the next car is Daniel Ricciardo, which shows just how poor the pace of the Renault car is at this stage of the race. And it's being amplified on screen now as, well, we tagged Daniel Kvyat there as we just about managed to fend him off. But what is going on? What has happened to the pace of this Renault car in the middle stage of the race? We just don't seem to have the pace at all. Now, of course, last time we pitted, I explained the maths to you. A 12-lap first stint on the soft tyres and a 12-lap second stint on the soft tyres. That has worked out just about. We pit on lap 17 for our final 12-lap blast. I say 12-lap blast, we're probably going to have to do quite a bit of conservation because this Renault just doesn't seem to be coping well whatsoever towards the end of stints, and we're getting held up, just what we don't want when we're in a battle with other cars. We've been held up by a McLaren, I believe, and also an Alfa Romeo. It's just not what you want, but we're going to have to get on with it regardless. And we emerge now in P16, so just behind Antonio Giovinazzi, who is, interestingly enough, on the medium tyres. So I assume he is going all the way to the end of the race, because I haven't seen anyone else even touch those medium tyres. I assume he's gone for a soft stint and a medium stint. But yeah, once again, time will tell as to whether he'll come in again. But lap 19, we'll take a look at the running order. So we have got Lewis Hamilton still in the lead ahead of Valtteri Bottas, who's going for a move on Daniel Kvyat. Now, it's good to see Kvyat battling with cars that he doesn't need to be, because hopefully that will compromise him, meaning that we'll be able to come out ahead of him. As there you can now see Pierre Gasly in P3 for this Grand Prix. So it's been a pretty good stint. He is now ahead of Sebastian Vettel, who's running the medium tyres, as is Sergio Perez. And Perez has actually got ahead of Lance Stroll now. So still a pretty solid race for Racing Point. And then just behind them you've got Daniel Ricciardo. And this Renault car is just not doing the business at the moment. The same with Charles Leclerc. Just a very, very bizarre day for the new Ferrari driver. Just doesn't seem to be able to get that car hooked up. I'm sure there's probably problems with it, or else you'd expect someone of his calibre to be able to take care of that. But anyway, we're not completely sure what's gone on there. All we know is with ourselves, we are struggling at the moment. It's lap 20 of 29, and we are now being challenged by Lando Norris. We've been jumped by Daniel Kvyat in the pit phase, and we can pretty much wave goodbye to any points positions today. We've pretty much got to rely on overtaking 2 cars and hoping for a DNF. That is how far away they are. As we do manage to fend off Lando Norris, but that is of little consolation. Fortunately, Daniel Kvyat is now stuck behind the slow Sauber car of Antonio Giovinazzi. As expected, he is running those medium tyres to the end of this Grand Prix, and he is slow in comparison to the soft tyres of that Toro Rosso of Daniel Kvyat, and we have closed in on the two of them now. Unfortunately, we only have a Renault engine in the back. Fortunately, it should be slightly quicker in a straight line than that Honda, but I guess we will find out pretty soon, as Kvyat now challenging Giovinazzi for P11 in this Grand Prix. Who knows, it could be for a point should someone in front DNF, but Kvyat now goes to the inside of the track on the run to turn 1 and easily gets that move done. We're going to have to stick behind Giovinazzi, just too far behind. Couldn't get a good enough run out of the final corner, but hopefully we can size him up into turn 4. But no, once again, the power of that Ferrari-powered Sauber is just slightly too much for ourselves. But just fast forward one lap and look how far away Daniel Kvyat is. That just shows how slow Giovinazzi is at this stage of the race. But we're going to go to the outside, try and keep the racing line because we have got the pace on Giovinazzi through there. Get ahead of him into turn 1, and hopefully now we can set our sights on that P11 that Daniel Kvyat currently possesses. But Giovinazzi looks as if he's got another good exit out of turn 3, just like on the previous lap, and he is back ahead of us. We're going to try and cut back underneath him, but it just doesn't seem to work. And once again, somehow, Giovinazzi finds himself in front of us as he brake checks us almost there, going very slow. Just showing that in this middle sector, this Renault car is so much quicker. And we've got so much more downforce than that Sauber Alfa Romeo car. But what is downforce if you can't overtake something, eh? Well, it's absolutely nothing. But once again, we've got another DRS zone. Hopefully we can get close enough to him this time. But it just looks as if we're just slightly too far back once again. And we're going to have to turn our attentions to the pit straight at the start of lap 23, but no, we don't actually even have to wait that long. Looks as if we're going to go into the final corner. We brake early and we cut back underneath Giovinazzi. A lovely overtaking move, probably the best one that we've made all Grand Prix. Very much outfoxed the Italian driver there, sort of scaring him into braking late into the final corner. We cut back underneath, and because Giovinazzi outbraked himself so much, we got a very nice exit compared to him, meaning that we stayed ahead of him. But unfortunately, we couldn't make any inroads on P11 or P10. In fact, Kvyat pulled away from us once our tyres started to die at the end of the Grand Prix, come lap 29. But as we look up at the front, once again, it was an imperious performance from the Mercedes drivers. It's just that the roles were reversed from Melbourne, where Valtteri Bottas took victory. Today, it has been a good drive from Lewis Hamilton. Pretty much untouched at the front, and then in P3 is the Ferrari of Sebastian Vettel. Once again, having to settle for not even second best, third best today, but this guy was the best of the bunch. Lewis Hamilton takes victory in the desert, and we come around the final corner for a disappointing weekend. It started so promisingly, starting in the top 10 and being as high as P7 on lap 1. But we have to settle for no points this afternoon. It's P12 and disappointment all round the Renault camp, pretty much. But yeah, that guy, he won't be disappointed whatsoever. Lewis Hamilton, a race victory and 43 points chalked up for the season. Not quite a perfect start for him, but it's not far off for Mercedes especially. And yeah, they're looking pretty good this season. It's going to take a hell of an effort to get ahead of them. And Charles Leclerc, celebrating his 8th position in his Ferrari. A little bit bizarre, but I'll let him off. But yeah, there we go. There's the final race results. Hamilton from Bottas with Vettel in 3rd ahead of Gasly, who in fact managed to get back ahead of Verstappen. He was, of course, sitting in P3 at one point during the race, with Magnussen, Perez, Leclerc, Stroll and Ricciardo rounding out the points. Yeah, our teammate was just better than us all weekend. He outqualified us, he outraced us, and he was just better than us. So yeah, pretty poor weekend from ourselves. 2 DNFs, of course you saw both of them on screen for Carlos Sainz and Alexander Albon, and that means that the Drivers' Championship, it is a tie at the top between Hamilton and Bottas, with Vettel taking 2 third positions on 30 points. Gasly up ahead of Leclerc in 2P4, and Verstappen, after a poor race last time out in Melbourne, up a position too. Racing Point have got ahead of ourselves in the Constructors' Championship as we fall to P6, but hopefully next time out in China we can improve that. So guys, thank you so much for watching if you have watched all the way to the end. And yeah, I've really enjoyed this episode. Hopefully you guys have too. Do make sure to leave a like if you've enjoyed it. Comment your thoughts down below. And I'll catch you guys next time out for the Chinese Grand Prix. But until then, take care. Bye-bye.